Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MICROSALT PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it's appropriate to do so on the Investor Meet Company platform. Before we begin, we would just like to submit the following poll, and if you could give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I would now like to hand you over to the executive management team from MICROSALT PLC. Rick, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. And I want to introduce with me is Gary Armstrong, our Chief Financial Officer, and he'll be assisting with the presentation as we go along. So again, thanks for everyone for attending on our presentation about MICROSALT and our current journey. Most of the information we have, financial information we have, will pertain to H1 and some of our projections. But as a reminder of where we're coming from and what we're doing, our vision, our whole reason for being in business is to help reduce cardiovascular disease across the globe. And we do that by selling and commercializing our patented processes that makes traditional salt low sodium salt. And the key to that is that we maintain the properties and the functionality of traditional salt, so the taste remains the same. Our whole value proposition to the food manufacturing community is based on the fact that we don't change the flavor. So you don't have to engage the consumer to lower sodium. You don't have to go on the market and say, hey, lower sodium version of property of item X or SKU Y. You just simply change the formula, the sodium goes down, and the flavor stays the same. So it's a really exciting breakthrough when it comes to health initiatives. No matter where you might live, whether it be the UK, the US, Canada, Mexico, it doesn't really matter. Across the globe, sodium initiatives are gaining strength. And something like MICROSALT is a significant breakthrough when food companies can lower their sodium without impacting the flavor, which means they don't have to impact and engage with the consumer on previous or reduced sodium levels. So this is what we do. We connect the science, the industry, and the impact for the consumer. We have a patented process that generates low sodium salt, up to 50% less sodium, where our target market is the blue chip worldwide food manufacturing companies. You know, we need to understand that we're selling salt, and therefore salt only works at scale. So we are selling to the world's largest companies. And what that gives us two things. It gives us a significant runway of revenue, and also gives us a very secure consumer base. So far this year, through the end of June, we have impacted over 471 million servings of food made with MICROSALT. That's a significant number, and that's only for the first 6 months. So our product is not only is it being accepted by the food manufacturing communities, it's being used on the streets and in the shelves. So we are impacting people's health. And our system, we're systematically making things more healthy, whether it's a bag of crisps or French fries or cheese sauce. It doesn't really matter what it is. If it's made with MICROSALT, it's made healthier. A little bit about myself. I've been the CEO since December of 2021, and very happy to be here. I tell people I think it's the job that I was born to do. Gary is our interim CFO. Gary has been on the board since day one. We decided to move in this direction as we begin to grow. Gary's very well received in the industry. He's got a lot of great experience, and I'm very happy and excited to have Gary with me along for the journey. I'm going to switch this slide over to Gary. He's going to jump in here.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Also, if I can say, glad to be here as well, and glad to be on board helping Rick on this incredible journey. Yeah, so half one highlights, revenue up to $800,000. That's a significant increase on the prior year, and that's largely due to repeat orders from a bulk customer, which is good. On the back of that, we've reduced the net loss in H1, largely due to the turnover, but also due to starting to see some economies of scale, which clearly will accelerate as we continue to grow. Gross cash, 0.9 at the end of H1. Obviously, we did the raise in February. A lot of those proceeds have been applied into increased inventories, I should say, which sit at 0.9 at the end of the half year. And given that we've grown those inventories, that should see a different approach to the cash burn in H2, which should be much reduced on the back of that. Trade and other receivables are slightly increased to $1 million, partly on the back of the increased revenues, as I've talked about, and trade and other payables slightly down, which really relates to phasings of payments to suppliers.
All right,
okay,
then.
I'll hand it to you, Rick.
Thank you, Gary. And we'll keep going on our operational highlights. I've already mentioned that we've participated in over 471 million servings, and as we expect that number by the end of the year to be close to 1 billion, and that's just 1 year. So the product is out in the real world and doing what it's supposed to do, lowering cardiovascular disease. We've expanded our sales to the UK and Belgium, while increasing our sales in existing markets in, I'll say, US, Mexico, and Canada, basically North America plus Mexico. Our Mexican business is extremely strong. They have a very rigid sodium reduction regulations in place. Canada is following suit, so we're in a great position to grow in those markets. We received the Low Sodium Salt Technology Award for 2025 from Food Business Review. We were named the Fast Company's 2025 list of most innovative companies. And we recognized by the IFE, the International Food and Drink event in London, for our groundbreaking contributions to the food industry. Again, there's a million great ideas. Very few of them actually turn into reality. And one of our most pride moments is this 472 million servings number. That means it's actually working. People are actually benefiting from our products. Just from a competitive landscape, it's just pretty simple. This is the basic products that are available, and as you can see down across the bottom of the chart, the ingredients: we're salt and non-GMO maltodextrin. Morton is salt. Look at their sodium per serving numbers. We're 150. They're 590. Now their salt substitute has 0 sodium, but it's potassium chloride and a number of other chemicals. And that is problematic, not only for consumer health, but also for labeling, if you want a clean label. And in some parts of the world, the UK specifically, that requires you to have a health warning because potassium chloride carries its own health concerns. Plus, potassium chloride has a very metallic taste. So what you end up doing is if you're using potassium chloride, you have to cover up the flavor. So if I'm a crisp company and I'm running my original flavor potato crisps 5 days a week, I don't want to have to add another flavor just to cover up my low sodium option. So we're in a great spot from a competitive standpoint, and we spend a lot of attention on our R&D work to make our formulas strong, to make them work for individual customer specifications. As far as the market is concerned, first of all, the WHO, the World Health Organization, part of the United Nations, has come out and issued that, hey, we need to lower sodium across the globe by 30% by the end of 2025. Now, we all know, anyone in this call knows if you're in the food business, that's not going to happen. But what that is, basically, is like when you go to rehab and they say the first step is you have to acknowledge you have a problem. The WHO has done that for the world. They said, hey, we need to lower sodium. Now, 95% of the WHO companies will miss that target. That's okay, because that's a market for us. As we go along and as geographies create their own low sodium regulations, we're there to help them. As a contrast, for example, in the UK and in Mexico, manufacturers are penalized from producing low sodium foods, where in Asia, Singapore specifically, you're rewarded, you're paid if you can make low sodium food. So there's a lot of different approaches across the globe. In the US alone, we spent over $219 billion on high blood pressure, trips to the doctor, crazy expensive medications, high blood pressure devices to measure it. And much of that is self-imposed by excess sodium consumption. It starts about when you're 7 or 8 years old and you start to really have your own sense of what you like, what you don't like, what you're asking your mother you're going to make at home. It starts then. So it's like one little grain at a time. So who's surprised when you're middle-aged and you have high blood pressure? You've been consuming excess sodium your entire life. Almost 21 million people a year die from this cardiovascular disease resulting from excess sodium. And it's really an unfortunate number. As far as the market goes, we're at about $37 billion potential market for salt and $16 billion just for the French fry market. French fry for us is a target because it's very visible. We've created a product specifically for French fries so that the consumer doesn't say, I don't see any salt in my French fries anymore. So we've really taken this particular market by the horns, as it would say. Our growth strategy is pretty simple. We're targeting the large B2B customer food manufacturers. We go out to the food shows. We go out and we meet people. We talk to everybody. Don't get me wrong. We love the small guy. The small guy wants to come and buy 2 bags of MICROSALT from us. Fantastic. But our sales efforts and our priorities are the big producers that can actually influence the food supply. Now we have a great focused R&D department that uses food scientists and food engineers. Specifically, I'll go back to my earlier example about French fries. How do we make our formulas more applicable to French fries? And we were successful with that. Food service. When you want to expand into food service, you have to think about packaging. So again, our R&D people have been able to redesign some of our formulas to make it simpler and easy for us to package in little tiny bags. They call them sachets or little tiny bags. You've seen them when you get to-go food. So it's a very exciting opportunity for us, and that we can address this huge market for food service. And from a production standpoint, we utilize very stable co-manufacturers. We have 2 locations currently up and running, one in Upper Minnesota and one in New Jersey. We've selected the Upper Minnesota one as our main source of supply. They have drier air because it's so far north, and they have a lot of clean water. And those are really the 2 components that we require, dry air and clean water. And we're able to reduce our production and storage costs by forcing our production through mostly one location, but having a second as a backup. Every good company has redundancy in its production, and we're on that list. We have redundancy. We can move orders around to different locations, and as a result, when you combine the 2 capacities, we're in a great situation capacity-wise for at least the next 3 to 4 years. And as we get bigger, we all know it's economies of scale. As we get bigger, our runs get bigger. Our run rate, our toll rate, for lack of a better word, goes down. So that improves our margins. So the bigger we get, the stronger our margins become. From a sales and marketing strategy point of view, again, we went to a lot of food shows, and we will continue to do that next year and the year after. We did appoint a QSR, which is a quick serve restaurant specialist, to help us with MICROSALT Premium internationally. Most of the major QSR chains are international companies. You can go to, Bangkok and go to McDonald's. You can go to downtown London and go to Burger King. So these are international companies that we're dealing with. Again, we won a number of awards last year, and we expect to continue raise our profile during next year. It's important to spend a little bit of money on marketing because people need to know that we're out there as their solution. We have to start with the R&D people, and the R&D people are who we target when we come to marketing, so that they know, hey, there is a solution. It's not just potassium chloride anymore. From an investment proposition, first we talked about a little bit about the global health regulation tailwinds for us. Basically, governments across the world are legislating sodium reduction. So depending on where you are, depending on how aggressive you are, is how aggressive those food companies will become. And it's all good news for us. As the UK gets stricter, we find companies more and more willing to address every formulation. So it's all good for us. And it's unusual that you have governments supporting a position for a company like ours. Unique and defensible technology. We have a patented process. Nobody can come out and do this the way we do it. And we have a significant amount of know-how. It's not just hit a button and turn it out. It's a very complicated and intricate system to make our products. So we feel very comfortable in the fact that we're not going to get knocked off. To be blunt about it, we're very secure in our technology. Large manufacturers, multi-sector addressable markets. Guys, walk into a retail store, any store you want, any brand, whether it's Tesco in the UK or Loblaws in Canada, and you'll just see item after item after item that needs to reduce sodium. At some point, they're all going to have to do it, and we're the first in line. We're the go-to people in sodium reduction. Doesn't matter whether it's pickles or it's crisps or it's shaved ham meat. It doesn't matter. We're there for them. We have the same functionality as salt, so we're able to address all these markets. I'll even say that it even extends into pharmaceuticals. We've been contacted by a number of companies that use salt as a stabilizer. And they're now realizing that they need to reduce the sodium in their salt without impacting the stabilization functions, which we can do. So it's the market, the runway for us is astronomical. And we've worked hard and we've developed a significant partnership with some of, and if not the world's largest food manufacturer. And as you can see by our revenue projections for 2025, 2026, and 2027, they are increasing rapidly on the back of this relationship. As they expand item by item, we pick up volume item by item, and some of these items are iconic across the globe. So we're in a great position to make that happen.
And Ray, just to add to that, once we have been added into the formulation, it's quite difficult for a manufacturer to then take us back out, because why would they want to increase their sodium content?
That's right. And the sales cycle for us is a bit extended because we have some approvals to go through internally. So they're not going to undo that. Once we've proven, which we have, that we're a dependable supplier, that we don't run them out of salt, there's no reason and there's no way to go back. How are they going to go back and increase their sodium? It's almost impossible. And from a business standpoint, from a scalability standpoint, as I mentioned earlier, we're selling salt. Salt works at scale. So as we get bigger, we produce our commodities. We purchase our commodities rather at a lower cost. So as we get bigger, our margins only improve. We don't necessarily need to ratchet up our marketing and sales expenses as a percent of sales growth, because it's confined to a certain number of extremely large manufacturers. As we get our production runs themselves become larger, we produce more per hour. We reduce our cleaning fees. It all adds up to be a very strong, stable business model. And once we get to a situation where we have a stable formula, it's pretty CapEx light. We have a formula, we know how to make it, and that's what we do. Now, we're sensitive to the consumer needs. We're sensitive that, for example, the way that they season crisps in The UK is different than the way a lot of companies do it here in the US. So we're sensitive to that. So we've developed a number of different formulas for MICROSALT to adjust to that. Still within our patent, still with the same functionality, and still with the same sodium reduction. And just to kind of wrap this up, our outlook is rock solid. You know, our sales projections for 2026 are almost 7 million, 6.7 million. And I want to stress that that number is what we have today, this year, 2025, plus what we've been promised by one customer on one item. So we are not, this is not a wild guess. This is factual numbers to get us to 6.7. It's in hand. That equates to almost 2.9 billion servings next year of healthier food. And for 2026, 2027, the same volume projections and the same simple methodology leads us to sales of almost or over 11 million for 2027. And again, the bigger we get, the stronger our margins get. So we're in a great spot to grow this company to where it needs to be. When you get to 2027, you know, when you're in the 13 to 15 million range, that's when people start taking you seriously, and we expect our economies of scale to really, really take hold. And you know, from an R&D standpoint and an outlook, I want you to envision a world where you don't just have salt. Envision a world where you have salt that has flavors. Envision a world that has salt that has nutritional benefits to it, not just sodium chloride. And that's where we're going. We're going to be able to produce and offer these food companies multi-level solutions on the back of the original MICROSALT formula. Someone comes to us and say, hey, Rick, I need a red salt that tastes like lime. Done. They can't get that from anybody else in the food business except us. So we're really in a great spot. That's our song and dance. Thanks for listening. I could drone on all day long about MICROSALT, but we'll stop. And I think Gary's got some questions. Gary, are there any questions that we can answer?
I'm just looking. I think we've answered one or two. I think you've answered. There's one about the 6.7 million projection, but I think you've answered that one already.
All right.
26. We'll go on here. How would you describe the adoption rate of MICROSALT? We hear some great news, struck awards, but revenue and commercial take-up hasn't been at that level.
Okay, that's a really good question. What I will tell you is that the sales cycle for MICROSALT is long. These large food companies take a very long time. Very quickly, there are some stages. The first stage is we have to break through to the customer and get to the right people. Basically, do the old-fashioned hard yard sales work to get in, get an audience, get the meeting. Okay, so once that's done, we then go to the R&D department and we send them samples, and they conduct what's called bench testing, where they just basically mess with the product. They taste it, they pour it out, they look at it, they examine the paperwork, and they say, okay, that's good. Now we're going to go to batch testing. So then, still within the lab, they do a batch. Let's just say they're making product X. They make 30 pounds of product X with MICROSALT, and they spread it around internally for taste tests. That happens. Then they say, okay, this is good. We've got a viable low sodium solution. Now we have to go to production testing. So what happens here is that they have to run it on their real equipment, real people, real packaging at real time, which means they need to shut their machines down. In one case, we had to wait almost 9 months to get on the schedule to do a 4-hour production run, because, you know, they're running food. This is their business. They don't want to shut their machines down. So it can be frustrating, and it can be a long process, but it's vital to the system. Once that's done, that product then goes out to external focus groups and taste testing. And when that comes back, then it's approved. Then it goes into their marketing department. Okay, when are we going to put this out? What have we got promotion schedule wise? So you have to kind of work yourself into what's called the planograms. So even though our news flow is strong, it does take a long time. But it does come around. And this is more to Gary's point. It's extremely difficult for someone to undo all that work. It's extremely difficult. So we're in a great position. So customers are accepting our product. They are investing in production runs, and that's an investment. You have to remember that even though our product is salt and it has a 5-year shelf life, their products do not. So when they turn off a machine running a cereal brand, for example, for 4 hours, they're really risking short-term shelf life product that's in the market. So they really have to be careful in there. It's a big investment on their part. When we hear that they're going to production testing, we know that it's going to work because they're not going to spend the money and the time if they don't believe it's going to work. So that's a little bit of reason why sometimes it's a disjoint between news flow and revenues. It's just timing. Did I get it, Gary? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you. Again, I think you've part covered this one, but any areas within your supply chain where you've identified for efficiency improvements, and have we taken action yet?
Yes, cleaning fees, for example, this is a simple one. There's a cleaning fee between runs since we use a third-party manufacturer. We want the machines to be clean when we start, and so does the guy after us. So there's cleaning fees, and they're excessive. They could be upwards of $20,000 US. So if you run one run of 200,000 pounds, it's 20,000. But if you run 4 runs of 50, it's $80,000. So as you get bigger, those cleaning fees get significantly reduced. As you get bigger, the toll charge goes down because they need less people to monitor it. In the future, we can automate packaging. We can obviously, the more salt you buy at one time, the cheaper it is. We go out in the salt market just like our customers do and buy the same salt they do. So the more we buy, the cheaper it becomes. The same thing goes with freight. As we develop freight channels, which we have going into Mexico as we speak, we've been able to negotiate extremely attractive freight rates for us, not only to the border, but over the border into Mexico for local storage in Mexico City. There is a lot of room for us to improve our margins as we go through, and it's just all part of scalability.
Okay, thank you. One coming in here. How does the margin for MICROSALT Premium compare to the bulk ingredient or the standard ingredient?
The margin, yes, yes. And that's whoever asked that is a smart person. The margin for premium is a little lower than bulk because there's an extra process involved. Now, as we grow and we get to have some additional capacities in one location, we'll be able to reduce that upcharge. It's about a 10% hit on our margin between premium and bulk. Bulk will be the significant portion of our sales, so we're not too concerned about the margin erosion when it comes to premium. And again, it's all a function of scale. We get a big hit on premium and we can take care of that 10%.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just one come in here. Have you explored airline food manufacturers? Apparently, due to a reduction in taste at altitude of 30%, airline food is oversalted.
It is. And we have talked to a number of the food caterers that, sell to the airlines. And because of that, they're a little hesitant to alter their formulas. And the airlines aren't really under any pressure to do that just yet. So we put them on I'm going to say not the back burner, but they're on the stove, but they're not bubbling over for us. It's mostly prepared meals that you taste the oversalt. And we've addressed them. If you remember when I was talking about premium and I said it now packs in small sachets, we have approached the airlines with our product in a sachet, because when you get the airline food, you always get a little package of salt, and we think a good way to start with them is to have the sachet of salt be low sodium. So yes, it is on the radar for us.
Okay, thank you. Do you expect to exceed your sales forecast for the next 2 years?
I'm sorry, Gary, what was the question again? Do
you expect to exceed your sales forecast for the next 2 years?
Oh, you're talking to a sales guy. Oh, I'm obviously going to say yes to that question, but I am very, very comfortable with our numbers that we put out for 26 and 27. Very comfortable that the numbers are already there, barring any governmental intercedents. I don't have any hesitations at all.
Okay. I think we're getting close on the questions.
All right. Well, I think that's it, guys. Anyone who attended, again, thank you for joining us on our vision and our journey. We are here for the long term. We are going to continue to be groundbreakers. We will continue to improve the food supply, no matter where you live in the world. And we're excited about the way we're doing it. We're doing it the right way. We're building it at scale. And it takes a little bit of patience, but when you get there, you get there. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Rick, Gary, if I may just jump back in there, thank you very much for your presentation, for being so generous of your time and addressing all of those questions that came in for investors this afternoon. And of course, if there are any further questions that do come through, we'll make these available to you after the presentation just for you to review. But apart from that, guys, thank you once again for updating investors this afternoon. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of MICROSALT PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.